something I've heard from a few people. I don't want to have kids because of the future of the planet. I guess it's climate change, possibly the direction that politics is going in. Why bring a child into this world, an already overpopulated world? Is that not a reasonable stance to take?
I think there are very valid fears for the future generation, and what they're going to be experiencing, and the legacy that we're leaving, and to take that personal responsibility to not have a child for that reason. It's a big decision to make.
So what, if one is making that decision,
Yeah.
what do you think the factors are that you should kind of put into the mix there?
What do you actually want? What do you actually want? So take that out of the equation, because this is, everything we know about the future we can only predict. Like, a lot of stuff can be predicted pretty well. A lot of it is very unknown. We're projecting ourselves into an unknown future and making significant life-changing choices based on the fear.
Mm. And fear-based decisions are generally the best. I always find
they're often safe.
Yeah.
But it's often quite limiting.
Having done CBT over the years, and they have those 10 forms of twisted thinkings, and when you have a thought, you sometimes go to this checklist, and it's like, oh yeah, I've fallen into that one. And one of them is catastrophizing.
Yeah.
It's always like jumping from a fear to like the worst that's going to happen, and then believing that. Isn't this kind of just catastrophizing on a grand level, which is the world is going to be an awful place in 20, 30 years' time?
Yeah.
When in fact, we don't know. I mean, on the current trajectory of, let's take climate change, it could well be awful.
It could well be awful. But who's to say that they're amongst that? It's hard times now. But do you have a nice time? Do you have a laugh? Do you have nice relationships? Are there things that make life worth living within that?
And I guess on that kind of bigger picture, you don't know what the scientific advances are going to be that might be able to combat climate change.
Well, we just don't. We don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there are some people that would say that they have a pretty good idea, but all I know is that it's when we project into the future, we often kind of lose the shades of grey in between. We either kind of swing from the black or the white. Because we can be more sure about those things, and we miss so much when we overlook the greys, because that's really where life is lived.
Often is, yeah.
That's where life is lived.
Yeah, things tend not to go as well or as badly as you think.
But when we're projecting into the future, we often choose one of the polar, and that fuels fear and anxiety, and then that can form decisions. And there are many things in life that we may not do because we're catastrophizing, that we actually know that we're probably missing out on. We're missing out on experience and opportunity and joy and relationships.
I mean, I'm not saying your third was touch and go, but did you ever think, well, do you know what, it doesn't feel like a great world to bring another nipper into?
There's the big picture thinking, isn't there? The kind of the mass understanding of what, like, the culture and the world and the wider picture thinking, the population, and then actually and taking some responsibility for that and considering it, but then also, the kind of the micro level of your family unit and your worth of experiencing joy and your worth of doing what you can to shape your family future, and that we do have a say in some of this. Like, I get to choose where we place some of the boundaries within our families, within our family, and how I bring up my children. I do have some input into that. So there are some things that we cannot control and some things that we do have the ability to kind of to shape a little bit.
And I guess the one thing we are programmed to do is procreate. And maybe on a kind of existential level, it gives you that you've passed on your DNA. You feel satisfied. You get pleasure from that. And it's like, and you can blink her out. I'm adding to overpopulation because we're not wired to worry about that macro sense.
Yeah, and there's so much, like, for me, that there was fear. I worked in a girls' school for a while, and it was really eye-opening to how social media is impacting young children, like young, at such a young age. And we haven't seen a full generation go through, you know, the way that we know the internet yet. So we don't fully understand the impact. But I must say, it really made me
What sort
worried.
of things were you seeing?
Just children as young as 8 using Instagram to bully one another over, and to leave other children out. They'd have parties and share and tag people in that weren't there. And it was, you know, this kind of, these conversations were just going on outside of school time, and they were parents and teachers couldn't keep an eye on it. And it was just, oh man, it was just so, it made me worry about having a daughter, you know, but if I was then not to go on to have that child that we would have liked to add to our family because of my fear, I'd be missing out on all of the joy that I get from having her.
I mean, it feels like Instagram rather than global warming is a good excuse not to have kids.
Oh.
But do you, if a mate says to you, you know, we would like to have kids, but we're not going to because of the way the world's going, does the kind of therapist within you think, yeah, don't buy that?
Yeah, I would question it. It seems like a very incredibly altruistic thing to say. You know, I'm doing this for the good of the world. Like, we're putting aside what we want for the good of the world.
A bit virtue signally.
Yeah, I would just be intrigued to dig a little deeper.
Or conversely, it might be that it's like there are reasons why they wouldn't want kids, and that's something to pin it on. Yeah.
So it's kind of, yeah. I mean, how can anyone argue with that, really? But also then it makes us all culpable in the, you know, it's like saying, well, if I'm not going to have children because of the world, so you have, and you're part of the problem.
So if you are going to take that stance, then maybe just keep it to yourself.
Just explore it a little bit. Just explore it a little bit more, just to check that it's not, you know, that you're not limiting your experience of life and your future because of what is a projection into a future that isn't fully known.
Yeah.
So it's fear-based.
Having a fourth?
No.
And that's not because of climate change?
No, that's just because of capacity for one person.